The path starts right now with the unveiling of the 12 teams in the college football playoff. The journey goes to Miami Gardens, Florida, Hard Rock Stadium, January 19th. That is where the national championship game will be played. 12 teams in the field, the 5 highest ranked conference champions, no matter which conference they come from, and then the next 7 highest ranked teams after that will make up the 12 teams. So Zach, our graphics operator, has everything ready to go. So let's start with the number 1 team in the final college football playoff rankings. It is the Big Ten champion, Indiana Hoosiers. Indiana number 1 for the first time in school history.
And there wasn't an easier call made today than Indiana number 1.
And the first outright championship since 1945. Wow. Just this year, they got out of the cellar for the losingest team in the history of the sport. And now they go into this playoff number 1, the Cignetti turnaround. With all due respect to Bill Snyder at Kansas State, the greatest turnaround in college football history. Ohio State and Indiana just flipped spots. So the last 2 national champions have been from the Big Ten, and 1-2 will again be from B1G.
And I think Ohio State, a little bit of question. Would it be Georgia at 2? Would it be Ohio State at 2? Committee has looked in the past at, hey, good loss, close loss, we're not going to crush you for it. They don't in the case for the Buckeyes as well, and I think it's probably makes a lot of sense to have them at 2.
Now, we've talked about this quite a bit. Remember, this is different from last year, the first year of the 12-team field, when you had the 4 highest-ranked conference champions getting the byes. Now it's just 1 through 4, no matter what conference you're from. So you have 2 Big Ten teams at the top of the bracket. At number 3, we presume, will be SEC champion Georgia, and it is. The Bulldogs avenged their regular season loss to Alabama with an impressive performance in Atlanta yesterday.
Without a doubt. And we came into this thing, I was talking about identity. And when it comes to identity, no one knows who they are more than the Georgia Bulldogs. They are a physical team, and they'll take you to the phone booth. And if you can't deal with them in the phone booth, you got no shot of beating them. Controlling the line of scrimmage. They held Alabama to -3 yards rushing. Hello. And you talk about Gunnar Stockton, his ability to improve throughout the season. And the defense was young early on, but they're seasoned veterans now. I don't think anybody wants to see this version of the Bulldogs.
And somebody's going to, but you'll have to win a game to get there. Remember, last year Georgia got a bye, didn't work out well for them. Notre Dame beat them in the Sugar Bowl. They'll try to put together a better run this time around. Number 4 in the final bye, meaning not getting a home game. And this is the only bad thing about Big 12 champion Texas Tech. Man, Lubbock would have been electric for a home game on campus. But the Red Raiders, Big 12 champion, their first conference championship since 1954. And the Red Raiders are seeded 4th, and there they are in Lubbock celebrating what Joey McGuire and company have done.
Yeah, and what they were able to do is beat BYU again. They forced 3 turnovers, beating them the first time in the regular season, came back and did one better, forced 4. That defense against BYU was outstanding. That is a football team. We talk about their offense. Their defense is about as good as we've seen in the country.
So Texas Tech goes in, and you know what? I believe with that defense, they can make a run. I'm not going to be shocked to see them in the national championship.
That front 4, how they get after the quarterback.
No doubt. We have David Baylor, Mello Hyde in the middle, Lee Hunter, defense, and Jacob Rodriguez, best linebacker in the country, might be a Heisman Trophy finalist, if not winner. Now, team that has a home game, seeded number 5. The Oregon Ducks. So 3 of the top 5 teams in the country are from the Big Ten. Dan Lanning's team will open in Eugene.
And I just love when it comes to Oregon, they know who they are. Dante Moore's been playing outstanding. Kenyon Sadiq, the best tight end in America.
I think this upcoming number is the first one where there could be some drama at 6, because you look at it, all assuming that 11 and 12 are going to be G5 teams that won their conference. 6 versus 7 is potentially significant when you take into account what your first-round matchup might be. So will it be Ole Miss like it was last week, or will it be A&M, who dropped big time after the loss to Texas?
Greg, that is a tremendous setup, because it plays a huge role in who your first-round opponent is, and it is Ole Miss. Pete Golding's team now seeded 6th. They'll play at home against the 11th seed once we get that, which will be one of the last 2 highest-ranked conference champions.
And Oxford is going to be buzzing down there. Good for Pete Golding. He's now the permanent head coach. Lane Kiffin, the coach at LSU, allowed the OC, Charlie Weiss Jr., to come back and call the plays. So now they have a staff together, and they're ready to make a run. Trinidad Chambliss, Kawan Lacey, this defense, they feel really good about what they have now in Oxford, Mississippi.
So Ole Miss will have a home game, the biggest game in the history of Ole Miss football.
The Grove will be buzzing.
It will be. Yeah. They will win the party, and they'll try to win the game. Another home game, seeded 7th. Gig 'em. Mike Elko's team lost its regular season finale at Texas, kept them out of the SEC championship game. Good consolation prize, home game with the winner getting Ohio State.
And I got to be honest, if I'm A&M, I have a bit of a gripe, frankly, because A&M, you look at their strength of schedule played, they're sitting there at 16. They're sitting one spot behind Ole Miss, whose strength of schedule resides at 41. You can say, well, the best win for Ole Miss, Oklahoma. Well, they went to Notre Dame and knocked off the Irish, who might be a top 10 team and a college football playoff team as well. So the first disagreement I have so far, but still, A&M, excellent football team. It'll be a difficult matchup for everybody.
And then the final team to get a home game in this year's college football playoff, Oklahoma. Now, the Sooners have struggled mightily on offense. Their defense is tough, and we had 3 SEC home games.
And you mentioned the offense. I don't know that I've seen a team in the past few weeks that have defensively made plays when they need to, whether it's a blocked field goal, whether it's a pick 6. When their offense has been struggling, the defense has stepped up and made plays, created opportunities to make it easier on their offense. If they can play that way, they have a chance to make a run, but the offense has to get better.
Okay, these are the teams that have the home games, and while I agree with Greg, there's a lot that you could dispute about Ole Miss and Texas A&M in the order there. This was the relatively easy part for the committee.
Here we go.
Okay, now, because of what we mentioned again, I just want to emphasize this. I'm not trying to talk to everybody like they're kindergartners, but just remember, 2 more conference champions have to go into the field. They are highly unlikely to be ranked in the top 12, so they're going to displace 2 teams in the rankings. So that means there are only 2 spots left. These are the contestants. Alabama, which lost in the SEC championship game, and the much ballyhooed debate between Notre Dame and Miami. So, number 9, who will go to Norman to take on Oklahoma? And it's Alabama, who didn't move. Maybe the game that had Alabama sitting on the bubble, they'll get a chance to avenge that game.
Yeah, and I think when you look at this, you kind of saw it going in this direction already with Ohio State being 2. A team that also lost their conference championship game. They weren't overly penalized. They dropped just 1 spot and flipped the team right behind them to acknowledge the head-to-head. I think they clearly drew conclusions about Alabama based on a 12-game sample size. And that's the way it should be evaluated when you take into account the teams they were being evaluated against had just 12 data points to evaluate. So Alabama needing to get back on track offensively, need desperately to get healthy. But they have an opportunity, like you said, Grease, to avenge that regular season loss.
But, you know, I will say this. I understand the concept of not being overly punitive for a conference championship game. But if you're going to play them, they need to have stakes both ways to win the conference championship and what happens if you lose.
They have to count somehow. And we're talking about Alabama maybe having the best win in the sport by going to Athens. They also have one of the worst losses by losing to Florida State.
No question.
So we just cannot erase that. I'm surprised at this move right here.
Okay, well, but the one thing, we'll have time for this. You have to define loss. By record, absolutely. If you go by power rankings, Florida State's still top 30. I'm not trying to excuse it. I'm just saying all of these things you factor in and try to define them. So now we're down. We're basically back where we started. There's 1 spot left in terms of at-large teams, and it almost certainly is going to be Miami or Notre Dame. So, number 10, and it is Miami. Without playing.
Wow.
Without playing on the final Saturday. Notre Dame had been ranked ahead of them the entire time. And now they flipped them, Joey.
Yeah, this is very strange to me. And again, Reese, you mentioned earlier that they hadn't compared these 2 teams. Well, why not?
They
They're
should have.
humans, and they should have absolutely compared these 2 teams. We had a ranking come out on Tuesday. If they were going to flip these 2 teams that did not play, they should have done it on Tuesday. Now, this Miami team, the way they're playing the last few games, they are a very good football team. They have a chance to win just like any other team. But it is strange to me that you have 2 teams that were sitting on the couch yesterday that somehow flipped in their rankings.
I want to take just a second, and then I'll let you make your point, Booger. There's not a lot of difference in terms of the entire body of work if you're looking at the analytics. Notre Dame's a little bit higher in FPI, which is a forward-looking measure. They're basically the same everywhere else.
So here's the thing, to your point. We do this week in and week out, and
Yes.
it's a beauty pageant. Now that the season is done, it's a resume contest, and so it's very easy to go back and compare these two teams when it comes to the resume contest, because now the head-to-head has to come into effect.
Their resume didn't change from Tuesday.
I know, but everybody's resume is complete from the standpoint of
Their
was
resume
already complete.
was already complete.
But
today doesn't change their resume. It was complete when we had the ranking on Tuesday. And so if we're going to make sense of this, as we're trying to watch it play out, if you want it to make sense, then make sense. If the resume was done on Tuesday, and on Tuesday Notre Dame was a better football team, and the resume has not changed a lick. Two teams were sitting on the couch. Somehow that flipped. That
There
makes
was
no
one
sense
team
to me.
between them and BYU that lost. It's now moved back. Now, if they're right next to each other, we're assuming BYU's moved back. We don't know
You're
that for
assuming.
certain.
Yeah, but Greg, it's true, but the way they do it, it's in larger groups. They should have already been compared.
Absolutely agree.
I don't differ with the decision.
Correct.
But now nothing, I agree with Joey,
process.
nothing's changed.
But
But
already
the
done.
entire season is now done, and now we have to compare the head-to-head, guys, and that's what rules.
It should have
the
been
day.
And they
compared
should have
before.
gone back and watched it like I did, and I think several others did. When you watched that game, it might have been a 3-point margin. It felt like
What
more.
makes you think they didn't?
They did. I think they absolutely
Okay,
did.
so you said- yeah, so they probably did.
Now, this is obviously the most hot-button topic among these three teams, and we'll have plenty of time for that. But there are two more teams waiting.
Oh,
to
we got
say,
two more. Let's
hey,
go.
we've got two more conference champions to get in. You have to have 5. So the 4th highest-ranked conference champion, number 11, is Tulane. By the way, this just in. We've seen this before. Ole Miss won by 5 touchdowns in the regular season when they played Tulane, champion of the American, had a terrific season, but the Green Wave at their watch party in New Orleans, and there they are. John Summerall, before he heads off to be the head coach of Florida, will coach his team throughout the playoff. And how about that? There's another little twist on this matchup. John Summerall is going to Florida. Pete Golding's now permanent head coach, but Ole Miss without Lane Kiffin.
You mentioned the 5 touchdowns. We also saw Duke in Virginia. It was a rematch last night, and Duke came out. Duke lost by 17, I think, the first time. So just because it was a blowout the first time doesn't necessarily mean it's going to be a 5-touchdown. John Summerall is a good coach. I think he'll have his team ready to play.
Okay, let's go to the last spot, the team that will go to Eugene to take on Oregon. And it is James Madison. So you have 2 group of 5 teams in there, and it's the ACC champion not making it is a little bit alleviated by the fact that they got a large team in the field. And the streamers are flying at JMU. Bob Chesney's on his way out too, but he will continue to coach the Dukes.
And good for them, too. If you watch that football team, they are a team. In every possible way, ton of respect for what they do offensively and defensively. I think Bob Chesney is a revolutionary. This guy is big time. An incredible hire by UCLA.
Yeah,
but,
he
man,
is.
he's got business to attend to because going on the road to Eugene will be a massive task. But I think that team is tough, man. They'll be tough to beat.
Okay, a little bit anticlimactic, and this will probably sting. First team out, I assume, is
Should be Notre Dame.
Notre Dame. I mean, I don't think that's a huge surprise. The Irish, it has to be gut-wrenching for them after being in the field pretty firmly until last week, then sitting on the bubble and then getting bumped. Second team out is BYU. There are only 2 losses, both to Texas Tech, both decisively. Kalani Sitake has an excellent team, but the committee deems not quite enough to make it into the field. Notre Dame is the team that is on the outside looking in.